What's up, everybody? This is Deuce Staley, the producer of the NJ Multi-Species Podcast. I did just want to kind of stop by and give a little update and a little shout out to a couple people. So I did have some computer issues started about 2 weeks ago. We're not going to get too technical here, but my video card had started to die. So again, Eddie from Toggy Time and Jason Uhas with the beaver attack video. What I had thought was one thing was really a precursor to my video card completely dying. So I do want to apologize to them and especially to the Kennedys this week. We had a really great episode that my video card ended up crashing out completely. So I lost all the video and the audio. I have a little bit of it, but it's really it's not usable. So this week we do have a hunting report with good old Stinky Steve from Signal 11 Lures. And we are going to do a top 5 guests episode of 2024. So we're going to do about 15 to 20 minutes of each of the top 5 guests that we had for 2024. So we'll have that up later Friday today. So again, mostly on me, really on my computer for dying. I guess technically not my fault. But I did want to kind of say I'm sorry to everybody else and the episodes that we lost. We're definitely going to get the Kennedys back on as soon as possible. But I hope you guys do enjoy the episodes from today.
Guys, I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. It's Chris Pereira from the New Jersey Multi-Species Podcast, and we've got Steve from Signal 11 Lures here with you for the hunting report for the week. Happy Thanksgiving, Steve. What's going on?
That's my happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
It kind of sounded weird coming through, but sure. I realized. I didn't notice you had something in your mouth there.
No, I grabbed a call that I haven't used since last spring, and it takes about 10 minutes to loosen them up. But I figured I'd give it a shot. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. How's everything going out there, Chris?
It's all good. It's all good. We lost our last episode due to a major computer problem, but I think Deuce had to buy a whole new computer. It was a whole big thing, but we're here for this. Kind of excited to talk to you because I've been seeing some totally different activity on our cameras. And also I do when turkey season comes around, I'm definitely excited to hear more about that. It's not something that I have tried, but we won't get into that. So what have you been seeing on the cameras lately? What have you been hearing from the shops and stuff?
Well, first I got to just touch on what you just said. Anybody out there listening that has not tried the turkey hunt yet, you got to get out there. It's honestly probably the greatest hunting there is. So if you haven't tried it, we'll talk about it as we get closer to the season. You got to get out there, whether you're just out with somebody else that's good at turkey hunting or out actually turkey hunting and learning. But we'll get into it. Like we said, we're recording this on Thursday, Thanksgiving morning. Things have changed drastically in a sense where I'll tell you what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing personally. The last couple, the last 7 or so days leading up to Thanksgiving have been frustrating for a lot of people. I mean, the weather, the temperature, really that ending rut where they're running around, or I should say not running around, but moving from seeking one to another doe. Kind of was limited to really mostly nighttime activity, and that's even what I saw. And a lot of the bucks are getting on that feed pattern. So for a lot of people that were anticipating having tons of action during the rut, they may not have. But now we're getting onto that feed pattern, and that really becomes an easier way, I should say, than the rut for a lot of people. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people, because you can hunt obviously food sources. You can hunt downwind of, I might have a little cut on me, which I didn't notice. Sorry about that. You can hunt downwind of bedding areas, which is a huge advantage. We could talk about that a little bit, and obviously trails. Deer runs right now are going to become awesome because you may have 5 or 6, 7, depending on the size of the herd, does come through, and you may have 1 or 2 bucks on the tail end of that following them through. So times are going to get exciting again, but usually the end of November is usually really rough, and I don't think this one's going to be any different. So I think we got a little bit of a rough patch. We got muzzleloader Monday, Tuesday, and then we're just looking for the temperature drop, and then things should really change.
I definitely saw some kind of temperature drop coming because I watched that for the ice fishing in
Yeah.
hopes with fingers crossed. But same thing. I did see hopefully some temperature drops coming. Yeah, was that's cuts from the turkey call, I guess.
You know what it is? When I went and threw it in quickly before I was running around, I actually cut my lip a little bit. But the
Turkey. Hey,
ones
they say turkey hunting's kind of dangerous, right? I guess it starts.
it's dangerous. Yeah. What I did is I popped open the jewel case and tried to throw it in my mouth real quick because I was running around because my computer was charging, and I caught a piece of the plastic. But the ones I sell are a lot safer.
Yeah. So a lot of what you just said is kind of what we've been seeing. And again, keep in mind this is coming from me only 2 years into hunting. I only know what I know, but the camera that I put on our one property just exploded with activity. I mean, the amount of does that came through mid to late afternoon, and it's a spot that we bait and stuff, and they were there in force. I mean, big ones, little ones I don't think I've seen just based on the size because there were some really big does in there. And then shortly after sunset, a lot of small bucks started showing up, like a lot more than we've seen so far this season. And then a couple of bigger ones showed up, and I actually even caught a picture of 2 of the slightly bigger ones fighting, or I don't know what you'd call it. They were locked up in the picture, like with their antlers. Yeah, so it was pretty cool to see. Like I said, I don't know exactly what that means for hunting. I know Joe couldn't be here for this right now, but he loves this time, like the Thanksgiving time. A couple days off of work, and you can hunt. Maybe that has something to do with it. But he's had a lot of success in the past hunting this time of the year. Um, So yeah, I mean, I guess is it just because they're transitioning? Is it are they going to rut again? And there's going to be a second rut. I've heard
Yeah.
something like that happens.
Okay. Well, I'll touch on that. Definitely, there's no doubt, especially we're here in the state of New Jersey, and our state's different than a lot of other states, but also similar in some senses. But our buck to doe ratio is way out of line. So there are definitely does every single year, and I've been hunting for quite a while, that will be coming back into their cycle early December. And there are does, and there will be bucks following and possibly pushing each other away. And scrapes are definitely going to open up again. I just posted a video on my Instagram and Facebook page where the scrapes got devastated by the heavy rain, but the bucks are already back right on them, opened them up again. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of people don't like to call it a second rut because they think a rut is nonstop action, which it's not, but it is. There is more action in the first rut than the second rut because there's a lot more bucks trying to get to as many does as possible. But yes, there's definitely going to be a second rut. It's coming up quick. If you don't call it a rut, doesn't matter what you call it, but bucks will be finding those unbred does. And to do that, they have to travel. There's also happens in January. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Bucks in New Jersey pretty much will have antlers through January, probably through February. As long as there's antlers on their head and there's testosterone running through their blood and there are unbred does, you will see some action that is not the normal just day-to-day normal action. You will see some type of chasing, seeking, following, breeding. You're going to see that for 28 days from the first rut to the second and even into the third. And you know that by when you see doe fawns with spots late in the season, you go backwards, you can figure out that they were bred late. Usually when you're out there in late September and you see something that still has some spots on it. So with that being said, going back to what I mentioned earlier, of bedding, does are bedding. If you can get downwind far enough where a buck could get between that bedding area and he will be downwind of that, he's going to be checking those does, and he'll check them usually from downwind at a distance, and he's basically checking the air and seeing if there's anything in there, period. You know, are they there at all, and then are any of them in estrus? Also, if you can find, if you know where the bucks are bedding, a lot of times when they're coming back from their, I think all the time when they're coming back from their food source, and they're coming, a lot of times that's earlier in the mornings, eating. Relax. So scouting is huge. Finding the bedding areas for the does and the bucks, knowing where they're going to eat. I mean, that all ties into being a good outdoorsman and a hunter. You have to be figuring that stuff out.
Let me ask you this. I don't know, maybe this is a dumb question, but is there any way, based on like the behavior you'd see either on the camera or while you're sitting in the tree stand, is there anything in the behavior of the does that could clue you into, are they already, are they already impregnated, or if they're still in heat, like I don't know, is there any, like the way they feed, like if they're still in a group feeding, does that mean something? Or if they're alone, is there anything that could clue you in, or you just don't know?
Well, I
Without,
mean,
I guess without sticking your nose in there and stuff.
yeah. And even if you did, I hope you wouldn't know if it was time or not, because that would be weird. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, there's so much stuff that you can read and so much stuff you can watch on the internet, and all, there's tons of information out there. But really, I think what it comes down to is your own experience. And if you're new at it, it's always great to take in all the advice and everything from everybody, but it comes down to your own experience. So for me personally, I mean, I've been in a tree for many years and hunting deer for many years. And I got to be honest with you, every time, it's still today. I mean, I'm over 40, 40 plus years of hunting. Every time a doe turns around today when she's in front of me, my brain's automatically going, "Oh, there's got to be a big buck there," because that's our wishful thinking. But I don't really know. I mean, I've done testing over the years with when New Jersey was allowed to sell estrus scent. I did stuff like this. I would have an area set up with some bait where I knew I was going to get those. I'd climb a stand and I would hang either a scent wick or something loaded with estrus scent above or very, very near the corn pile. And I never really use a pile, but enough corn and bring that I know they're going to come in. And the reason I would do that is I wanted to see if the does would come in. This is real estrus scent with nothing added into it, just pure estrus scent, as fresh as it could be. And it's in September. So obviously, these deer farms do some interesting things to get deer to go into heat to provide these scents. So with that being said, I've actually never seen a doe spook off of estrus scent at the wrong time of the year, especially early season. Now, they also survive by their nose and their instincts. So do they know that there's absolutely no way that there's anything in heat that time of the year? It's very possible. So my point is that sometimes the does get squirrely. If they don't, they're either very comfortable with that spot. They're comfortable knowing, a lot of times they know you're there. If you don't hunt does in a certain area, those does may come in like nothing's wrong. And you may think that they don't even know you're there, but they do know you're there, but they're comfortable. I have spots I don't shoot a doe ever. I have other spots that I try to thin them. So I don't think, me personally, with the experience I have, I don't think I could really count on a doe if there's 4 or 5 of them there to know one of them's in heat. The way you're going to know it's in heat is because there's going to be a buck on its tail. If there's a doe in heat, It may be a spike, it may be a beauty, a big one, I don't know. But if there's a doe in heat, they will have a buck nearby, either watching them or chasing them. I've had does in front of me, 4 or 5 does calm, and I could hear a buck running through the in this one area through the swamp. And I mean, I probably heard him for over 100 yards. He got louder, louder, louder. He came right in from a totally different direction, which is a lot of times what happens. And he harassed them does until I got an angle on him and got a shot at him. But 5 minutes before that, I had no idea those does were in heat. Yeah, the time of the year is from Halloween through December into early January. You got to be ready for a buck to be following a doe, because it will happen.
You just never know, I guess.
You just never know.
And that's kind of touched on one of the questions I asked you. So just so everyone knows, Steve was nice enough to come over and kind of help analyze one of the properties we set up to hunt. And it's a property where I really wanted Joe to be here for this. I really do want to do an episode. I know I was breaking Joe's balls about it, but I do really want to do an episode, like almost like not a real debate, but just so that we can hear multiple. It's like fishing to me.
Yeah.
There's probably 24 ways to skin any particular cat, quote unquote, for hunting, right? And everyone has their way. They've seen success, made one way for one guy, another way for another guy. And I treat it just like fishing. I want to know all the ways so I can, see what works best for me, but I want all the information.
Right.
And in this particular spot, and I told you this there, I said, we have literally no problems hunting does at this spot. Like, if we want, like, all does always come by, they come back in packs, big ones, small, like everything. But we've seen nice bucks on the camera, but only 2 small bucks have come by at any given time in the last 2 seasons that we've been in the tree stand. And when you were there looking at the property, you basically said the same, what you just kind of hinted to, is that the does may know we're there and not really care, because the what they're eating, the bait that we put out there that they're eating is more important or whatever to them. The bucks may obviously also know we're there, but not even come in because they're more concerned with us being there, basically.
Correct.
And it was and I guess every spot obviously is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Also, kind of like what you were mentioning before, like, you don't hunt that far away from that spot that we hunt too, and it seems like the deer can act completely differently than the 2 spots. I mean, like, we have not seen any real rutting activity until these 2 deer locked up that I caught on the camera the other night. I don't know if that counts towards some kind of rutting activity, but yeah, versus you said you had a lot of bucks running by kind of chasing does. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to definitely keep in mind, and this is probably something that a lot of people almost don't believe it until they got some years under their belt of being in the trees hunting. You could have different action across the road. I mean, there's so many factors as to why you are seeing or you are not seeing action during the rut, let's say. A lot of it could be, for some people, it's just pure luck. I mean, I say it all the time. During a rut, any given tree could be the greatest tree in the world if the timing is right and you get lucky. But if you do your scouting and stuff and you start to log either in your brain or on a piece of paper what you're seeing and where you're seeing it year to year, a lot of times you're going to see the same type of activity in the same area with the same terrain, the same maybe vantage point for a buck. I mean, I hunted a buck one year. I mean, I hunted him for like 3 years, this buck, and he was in a low spot. And this buck, I just couldn't get on him, and I wasn't allowed to hunt. And I mentioned this a little bit. I wasn't allowed to get to where I had to be to get him, and he had me patterned. And one day I got in late, like 12 in the afternoon, which is not a bad time to go hunt during a rut. It's a great time, actually. But for me, it was late. he didn't have me patterned on that day. And this buck came in from above me on a high point on a bit of quite a bit of a hill in front of me. This buck let out the only time I ever heard a buck howl. His hunt was incredible. And I knew it was him, and he let it rip. And I'm thinking, geez, is he calling does up to him? But the fact of the matter was that this buck had me pegged from over 100 yards away. I thought he was behind me where he always was. He must have moved. I caught him on his way back. And it's just really interesting how you will see certain action in one spot. A mile away is a huge distance. A quarter mile away, you could see completely different action. Across the street, you could see completely different action. A lot of it has to do with the thickness of the woods. And the good thing is, like you said, if you have comfortable does in front of you, that's a really positive thing, because eventually one of the does is going to be in front of you, going to be comfortable, going to be looking to be bred and be in heat. And a buck, you could park your truck under your stand. If there's a hot doe, he's probably running in to that doe to either check it, push it, or try to get into another area. So it's always a positive thing having does in front of you. And it's funny, I just was talking to somebody. I did a post, I think, on New Jersey Hunter. And sometimes I try not to do too much, but I told somebody to switch the freezer filler. And another guy who uses my product all the time, he said, I only use Tramp Stamp all year. That's great. The reason why I said that is freezer filler is a scent I make that really is for does and bucks. The does seem to absolutely love it. And when the does love it and they come in, a lot of times you're going to have a buck behind them. And even if they're not in heat, if it's a buck that's moving from one spot to another and he's not in his home area and he sees 4 or 5 does, he's going to get downwind of those does, even if it's briefly. He's going to sniff those does. So my freezer filler is not really bringing the buck in, but it's bringing the does in. And if they're comfortable and their nose is a little occupied with our scent, and maybe you have some bait out or it's on a run, that's always a real life doe is your best decoy you could ever have and ask for. So it's great to have comfortable does hanging around your stand. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're going to get out there, starting Friday, Saturday, after Thanksgiving. But yeah, Steve, thanks so much for taking the time this morning. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving with your family. And we will obviously be in touch, and we'll let you know what happens, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely. And just one last piece of advice for the guys that are bow hunting. Remember, the guns will be in the woods starting Monday's muzzleloader. I'm not sure if it's the whole state. I think it is. And then not long after is your 6th day starts up. So if you're whether you're an archery guy or both, this is a great time to find that little spot where you know the deer are going to get pushed when the Orange Army hits the woods. And I've killed a lot of deer with the bow because of that, because they move them. So just know your game laws. Make sure you're following your game laws correctly, and good luck out there. Happy Thanksgiving, you, Joe, and Deuce, and to your families, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you, Steve. And I guess I'm on my bobber mug. We didn't talk about fishing, so I guess suffer for the deer.
Suffer for the deer. Love it.